On one of Melbourne's busiest shopping strips, Chapel Street, law enforcement is inside a suspected illicit tobacco and vape retailer. This coordinated raid with the Therapeutic Goods Administration and Victoria Police is one of a handful on stores in the area. Former federal police officer and illicit tobacco expert Rowan Pike says it's only the tip of the iceberg. How many illicit stores are just on this strip alone?
Well, there's at least 20 with a Chapel Street address and then probably another 10 within 100 metres of this street.
This store behind me, Big Boss Acai Convenience, was one of the retailers that was recently raided by the TGA and Victoria Police. I can confirm less than a week after those raids, this store was back selling illicit products again. How would you describe Australia's tobacco control policy in 2025?
Well, it's failed. We've taken the control out of tobacco control.
Australia's illicit tobacco problem is littered across the country and it's getting worse.
We found that the threat of illicit tobacco was a medium risk, but the trajectory was one that was increasing. And I think the past 12 months have seen that to be true.
730 can reveal internal tobacco industry data estimates the illicit market now makes up 64% of all the total tobacco consumed in Australia and 82% of the total nicotine consumed as of September this year. The billions of dollars in profits are leaving Australian shores and lining the pockets of criminals overseas.
And what $1 million buys an organised crime entity who's offshore, that will buy you approximately 400 stolen cars. So approximately $2,000 a piece, something like that. $1 million will pay for 100 arsons. $1 million will buy you about 40 semi-automatic pistols with rounds, or if you prefer, 20 assault rifles.
Australia's financial crime and anti-money laundering agency AUSTRAC plays a key role in tracking money from the illegal tobacco trade. In August, it was involved in exposing an $11 million syndicate in Queensland, and in Victoria, it helped uncover a network which used a takeaway shop to allegedly launder more than $83 million over 4 years.
We actually had an analyst embedded with that team, and that analyst was able to follow the money trails to identify new leads and new indicators that help progress the investigation.
AUSTRAC says ATMs at the point of sale pose a specific risk.
The way that this can be used is that a business can take the cash and then place that back into a private ATM that then enables that money to be recirculated and reused by different customers as well. And the business can then get an electronic credit in. We're seeing funds collected and moved out of the store, and we're also seeing cash being used through remittance arrangements.
EFTPOS presents its own challenges for law enforcement. Whilst there is often a record of transaction, once proceeds are digital, they can move quickly.
Then that provides the opportunity to get these funds into the financial system in an electronic format. And from there, they can then be moved within the economy, they can be then moved outside of Australia. We're quite fortunate that AUSTRAC has a range of tools and capabilities that enable us to follow that, but the volume obviously presents challenges.
As we saw in a recent case here in Victoria, there was 83 million sent from just one store overseas, but there are so many people doing it, it's difficult to pick it all up.
That store, which was not one of those raided 2 weeks ago, was connected to a notorious criminal allegedly at the centre of the illicit tobacco trade.
My observation of that network after 2 years of investigating it is that Kaz Hamid is across virtually every aspect of it.
He is the biggest name in illicit tobacco in Australia, the former Melbourne organised crime figure who's amassed a fortune from the trade over the last 2 years, has, according to police, waged a fiery and bloody underworld war from Iraq, gaining control of large swathes of the Australian black market.
This group is connected to an Iraqi organised crime entities, and they're funneling money offshore to people who are directing very serious crimes into Victoria and the rest of Australia by the use of this money.
At the start of September, the federal excise on tobacco rose a further 5% on top of regular indexing. The average price for a legal packet of 20 cigarettes is now more than $40, as many large retailers report further plunges in legal tobacco sales. Since 2020, the federal government's tobacco excise revenue has fallen dramatically from more than $16 billion to $7.4 billion this year, with further falls forecast. 730 can reveal tobacco industry data, which estimates the size of the illicit tobacco market as of September this year is at almost $10 billion. Some are connecting this drop in revenue to the Laffer curve, an economic model associated with US free market economist Dr. Arthur Laffer.
The Laffer curve suggests that there's a point of taxation that maximises the return for government for any, be it income or any other product.
This model, made famous 50 years ago after Dr. Laffer drew it on a napkin at a meeting with then Ford administration officials Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, explains how there is a sweet spot for taxes to optimise revenue.
In relation to tobacco, I think we saw that the maximum return was about 5 years ago when we had $16.5 billion. Since then, the tax has gone up, but there's been a diminishing return. So it's down to $7.7 billion now and looks like falling off the cliff.
The Australian government's position on the tobacco excise remains unchanged. It says it is a central component to tobacco control, which aims to reduce smoking rates and protect Australians from the harms of smoking. The Home Affairs Minister, the Federal Health Minister and the Illicit Tobacco and E-Cigarette Commissioner all declined interviews with 730 on this issue. In a statement, ITEC Commissioner Amber Shuita said, "A simplistic focus on excise as the solution doesn't make sense when you consider the profit margins of illicit tobacco. A much more complex approach is required, which will take time to see results. There is much that is being done behind the scenes with law enforcement that can't be made public. These intelligence operations aim to break the criminal business model behind these stores."
The scale of this problem is obviously challenging, and I think that's reflected by the fact the Australian government has invested $345 million to counter illicit tobacco since January 2024.
After the raids, smokers and vapers looking for the cheapest product don't have to search too far.